Amazing. So, first of all, hello everyone, and welcome to my live on the science of the nervous system. I'm excited to have all of you here with me for this talk because it's one that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I think it's going to be filled with information that is going to change the way you view things. The nervous system has always been a weird topic to discuss with people because it's this elusive, confusing thing that not many people understand because they can't see it or interface with it. And you've heard me say that before, right? Like you can't put your finger on it. So hopefully my breakdown tonight of the science is going to help us build a language together that we can use, and then we can have some fun follow-up conversations after. Okay. So the first thing that we are going to do that I have prepped you for on this screen right now is we are going to look at the nervous system as simply, this is the simplest picture I could find for you. Okay. Believe it or not. And we are going to talk about how the brain is connected to the body and how the body is connected back to the brain. Okay. And we're going to try and do it very simply here. So on this picture, we're going to talk about definitions. We're going to talk about different parts of the body, different symptoms and that kind of stuff. And I just want you to get an understanding of what the nervous system is from a visual perspective. Did anyone know that this is what it looks like? Can you answer that in the chat right now? When I say nervous system and I'm talking about mental health, is this what you guys are thinking of? Like, is this the cartoon that is coming up in your head where you're like, I'm following what you're saying. Yes, this is how it's all connected. That is how the body parts then communicate back to the brain. No. Okay, that's what I thought. I mean, Jody's coming in with a hot yes, and so is Lauren. So I'm glad that you guys have some knowledge. But even my patients right now, they're coming in the chat being like, nope, 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 nope. So that is why I want you to understand how it's working, so that you can start to make sense of symptoms and that you can start to understand how the things you do to regulate your nervous system change the human body and the brain. And we'll talk about those different parts. And I will do my best again to not make it complicated and not convoluted. Okay. So what you are seeing here in this picture is our brain and our spinal cord. And what is not depicted in this picture is all of the nerves that are leaving the spinal cord and shooting out and going to all of the different organs in the body, all of the muscles in the body, the skin in the human body. So I want you to imagine in your brain right now that between all those vertebrae on the back, and now you're seeing the spinal cord inside, that there are nerves connecting the brain and the spine all the way throughout the body. Okay. This communication is bidirectional. So it goes from brain, spinal cord, out to all these things in the human body, and then back from the human body into the spinal cord, back up to the brain. Okay. Are we following so far? That this communication is happening second to second of every single day, every single moment that your heart is beating. This is the communication that's happening in your body. Okay. So what you can see is, and I will put this very simply, is people say that mental health is a brain thing and it's a mind thing. But if we actually pay attention to the science, you are going to understand very quickly that this is a body thing too. Okay. So this is not just me saying, oh, mental health is body mind. Yeah, we know that. But do not ever let someone tell you that mental health is just in your head, because this is living proof that it is very much so in your body, and everything that you are feeling and experiencing is very, very real. Okay. And I don't say that to validate you and be like, just like trust yourself. No, science. Okay. Science every single time. So if a doctor has ever told you mental health is just in your head, be like, and would you like me to direct you to the whiteboard of the nervous system? Okay. This is where all of your neurotransmitters are being sent to. This is where all of your hormones are being sent to. This is the feedback that is occurring through the body. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you are on board and you are now confident by saying mental health is a body thing. Okay. Very, very good. Now we are going to talk about the definitions that occur in this entire process. I'm going to try and stick with the basics. because again, don't want to confuse you. And the nervous system has all these different branches. But for all intents and purposes today, you guys and me, we are going to stick with the autonomic nervous system, which is a part of the peripheral nervous system. What you're seeing here in the picture, the brain and that spinal cord is your central nervous system, which I'm sure you guys have heard before, the CNS, right? And then what I talked about, all those nerves that are coming through each vertebrae, coming out between them, extending into every part of the human body. That is our peripheral nervous system. And that is the communication. And I'm going to put this simply again, which is where our fight and flight or our rest and digest responses are happening. And I'm going to assume that every single person in here has heard fight or flight or rest and digest. Please confirm in the chat right now. Very good. Okay, so we all now have a very, very basic understanding of the nervous system. Hopefully you are still following my mental art inside my head, okay? So those two branches of fight or flight and rest and digest are known as the sympathetic nervous system, which you're seeing on the right side of the picture here, and then the parasympathetic nervous system, which you're seeing on the left side of the picture here. Do you guys see those labels loud and clear? Yes? Okay. Now, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system are direct opposites. They are still, if you can see on the picture, connected to all of the same organs, to all of the same systems in the human body, to all of the same parts. But they are an on switch and an off switch. These two things cannot be operating at the same time. Okay? So this is why our body is this complex, nuanced creature of going from one to the next. And that is where we gain nervous system regulation. And I'm going to dive into this topic a little bit more, but I do want you to understand that about the human body, is that we are either in a sympathetic state or we are in a parasympathetic state. And just so that you can link some of the things that are happening in the body symptom-wise to these different states, the sympathetic nervous system is when you are ready to take survival action. So you're going to be having an increase in heart rate, an increase in breath rate. You're going to have your pupils dilate. Your lungs are going to be more dilated and allowing for air because they're preparing for action. Your mouth is going to reduce saliva production, which is a lot of us getting dry mouth when we're anxious, right? We're going to reduce digestion at that time, increase our blood sugar because we're getting our body, again, ready to fight or flight. We're going to have an increase in those stress hormones because we're trying to make sure biochemically that we are prepared and ready, right? So right off the hop, you can see how a lot of the symptoms that you guys have when you're in that anxious state, that's present right now in that list, correct? Now, the parasympathetic nervous system, again, like I said, the complete opposite. And that is going to allow us to have digestion, allow us to rest, allow us to sleep. It's going to stop the adrenaline. It's going to let us chill out. Okay. And you need to learn how to have balance of these two systems. And something that I see very commonly in, I want to say the wellness industry or people online is that everyone's talking about, okay, we got to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. We need to activate our vagus nerve. Have you guys all heard that? Where people are really, really into talking about one side of the nervous system? Can you let me know in the chat if you've heard about that? I mean, you've seen my neck stretch where I talk about the vagus nerve. Yes, we do have to relax sometimes. And yes, we need to balance with that parasympathetic nervous system, which a lot of us don't know how to activate. However, this live today is going to be an example of how it's not all in one direction. Just so many people are obsessed with relaxing the nervous system, but we need both, okay? And we need both because we have to be able to survive at the end of the day, right? If I told you guys activate your parasympathetic nervous system every single day, all the time, you would die, okay? I have no other nice way of putting that. You would die because you do not have the ability then to activate your nervous system when it's required. And in every single human being, we're all going to be in a situation where we have to do that. Okay, whether if it's a huge stressor and a real threat, or even if it's a minor threat. Okay. What I want you to walk away with is it's damaging if we are 2 on one side or 2 on the other side, okay? So a lot of you who say that you're amped up and you're anxious all of the time, that's where we're seeing an excessive action of that sympathetic nervous system on the right side of the screen. And that's being trained into the nervous system. And that's where your body is like creating this new baseline. When our nervous system is dysregulated, it's getting signals to stimulate this pathway too frequently. And then, interestingly enough, what happens is when we go into feeling relaxed, we start to feel unsafe. Okay. Does anyone get that? When they go to like chill out on the couch and they have anxiety all day and they go to lay down, they're like, and they're like, nope, don't like this. Yeah. So if any of you are like, okay, I can't sit still and do nothing, I can't not be busy, that is because you are stuck in that state of hypervigilance. Okay. We've all heard this term, hypervigilance. Like you are an animal who someone is trying to, steal your things. You're a squirrel and you've saved all the little nuts and someone's coming to get them and you're trying to be on high alert to watch them so that no one steals your food over the winter. Okay, that's you guys hibernating on your couches. And that is a very damaging place for the nervous system to be in. So naturally, we want to turn that sympathetic nervous system response down by overdoing the parasympathetic nervous system. But like I said, I don't find that that's the best policy long term. And I think it leads to a lot of suppression of our symptoms. No, Jessica, we cannot hear you because I am in webinar mode, which means none of you can be seen or heard. But in spirit, you are all seen and heard. Okay. That was the cheesiest thing I've ever said, but I fucking loved it. Okay. We're going to go back to our nervous system chat. So now that I have covered the anxiety piece of what's happening biochemically in the body, okay, that's clear. I want to mention how depression presents with the same nervous system response, and it's often due to the overwhelm of that sympathetic nervous system firing, that the body has no choice but to override and shut that signal down completely, okay? And that leads to things like the freeze state, like numbness, lack of motivation, fatigue, and that disconnect from life. Okay. So I always say that anxiety and depression are 2 sides of the same coin. And I want you to understand that biochemically and scientifically, that depression is not the opposite of anxiety. It's the same internal hormones and nervous system cascade that you're watching here on this picture, except it's happening with a different presentation, usually because of the chronic issue of the anxiety or the way that we as human beings present, right? Like some people can be outwardly anxious and have anxiety all the time. A lot of other people suppress because of their high overwhelm, and that lends to symptoms of depression. So I just wanted to make sure that I touched on that so that all of you, no matter where you are, if you're an anxious person, if you're depressed, if you have both, if you think that you're unique inside of this picture that I'm painting, I want to talk to all of you. Okay? So before I leave this topic, I want to talk about the positive feedback loop that's happening. So like I said to you before, what you're seeing on the screen, this nervous system response, this is what happens naturally in the human body, okay? This is what every single human being on planet Earth and every animal, they're having this experience on a second-to-second basis, okay? This is not mental health. This is not illness. This is not anxiety. This is not depression. This is human functioning. But when it happens too often, this is when it starts to have those long-term effects. And then it changes the areas in our brain, which then leads to more incorrect firing of the nervous system. And that's what leads to our symptoms that we feel in our body. And I'm going to put in huge quotation marks, for no reason. Okay? How many of you say that? Oh my God, I'm getting this for no reason. Has anyone ever said that? I want all of you to be like, yes, that has happened. Okay. So I love when you guys give me a lol, maybe. So here's something important that you have to understand about the nervous system. Like all of the other systems in the human body, which are operating 24/7, you have to jump on the bandwagon and believe that this system is responding and reacting to much more than you can conceptualize on a millisecond to millisecond basis. Okay? It gets worn down over time with minor stimuli and sometimes major stressors. That's what leads us to getting to the place of our nervous system being dysregulated. And that's when we get into the mental health symptom territory. Okay? So I'm going to repeat that again. Your nervous system is constantly responding to shit that you don't even know that it's responding to because it's not in your conscious mind. Okay? The same way, guys, that your heart beats when you're not telling it to beat, and that we can all breathe right now and be like, hey, take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, but our brain is still going to make us breathe regardless of our awareness of breathing. Okay? So the nervous system is not always this, it's not always, it's never this controlled system. It is firing consistently, moment to moment, depending on stimuli that's around us. Okay? And it does that to keep us safe. So this is where we have to understand that there are things happening that we aren't aware of, and that is contributing to our stress. Okay? So have you guys ever been in a situation where your anxiety symptoms are really bad and you're like, God, I don't even know what would be going on right now that would be causing this? I know. I was talking to someone the other day about pain, and they were like, oh, I just don't understand why, like, my emotional dysregulation, I'm snapping all the time. And I'm like, but you live with chronic pain. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, so your nervous system is constantly being fired saying, ouch, 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 ouch. And you don't understand why you don't have enough at the end of the day to just emotionally keep it together. It's like your nervous system is filled up to the brim. Okay. So hopefully that landed with a lot of you guys and you understand why the nervous system is going from a place of regular human work and then becoming a little bit dysfunctional, and now it's starting to create symptoms. Okay. That entire conversation, that spiel that I just gave you, is the reason why I will never stop yelling from the rooftops that anxiety and depression is not just a disease of the mind. And I know I led with it, but I will repeat it again till kingdom come. Okay? It is in the body. This is in the body. And when people tell you it is in your head and that you can control this with your mind, like, oh my God, the amount of times I've heard, oh, I'm just trying to like change my mindset and like I can mind over matter this. Like if I tell myself to do this, then I can do this. It's like, no. Okay. This is happening inside the body. And that is our incorrect way of approaching ourselves. And that is why I am a doctor who works with the nervous system, because I understand that this approach scientifically makes no fucking sense. Okay. So sorry to be that blunt. I told you guys I'll be swearing today. So, welcome to the party. Here we are. And let's tackle the next topic. Are we good? Give me a thumbs up if you are with me and you are understanding what's going on. Yes, Tanya, you need to write that all over your house. I will paint it on your walls. So now I'm going to talk about the language that the nervous system is speaking. And I can't do this without putting this idea on the table. We have a part of the brain, and it's called the thalamus. Just remember that word. You will remember it. Super easy. And it's constantly filtering information. And it's deciding how the brain and the nervous system are going to respond to things. And it can't simply make you aware of every little thing. So most of the things that provide low-grade stress are slipping through the cracks. And that's why a lot of us end up in a place of saying like, I don't know why this is happening, because you're having trouble believing that there's things going on a molecular level in your body that you can't see. Okay. So it's not that you guys don't understand that there's other shit going on that, you're just not paying attention to. There's actually molecular and biochemical stressors that are occurring in the body that you guys don't even understand or see. And that is why you are not able to believe it, because you can't see it. And a lot of us high achievers we're like a see it to believe it kind of person. Like we want to feel it, that it's tangible, so that we can trust what it is that we're like convincing ourselves of. And this is why this makes sense to me, because I can see in the human body. I understand the biochemical pathways, but you guys don't. And that's why it takes a little bit more convincing. Can I remove the nervous system right now? Like the picture of the body behind me? Do you guys feel like you're good with it instead of staring at someone's intestines and lungs the entire time I'm talking? Let me know. Are we good with my face popping back up? Very good. Okay. So I want to use an analogy to talk about the thalamus in the brain. because I think it's a good one, but it's only good if you guys know this game. So do you remember when you were in gym class as a kid, and you guys used to play the game Octopus? I'll wait. I think I've given this analogy before live, but I'm going to wait and see if you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, Alexa, if you're the only one who... Okay, Rachel knows it too. Okay. So for those of you who don't know what Octopus is, because clearly like you weren't a gym diva like I was, you would run across the gym and there'd be a person in the middle and they would like throw their tentacles, their arms and their legs everywhere, and they would try and catch you. And if they hit you, then you would have to stay stuck in the middle of the gymnasium, and then you'd become the seaweed in the middle that could then hit other people. You guys have no idea what I'm talking about? Okay, cool. I look like a nerd now. It's okay. I have two analogies in my head that will work. But the reason why I like this one for my analogy about the thalamus is because the thalamus in our brain that's filtering information is kind of like the octopus in the center that's trying to catch all the people, but it can only catch a few people because one person can't catch 30 people running at them, right? Like they can only put their arms out and catch as many people as they can. But what happens as they're playing that game, because Stephen, I'm glad you remember this one, when the people get to the other side, didn't you ever think there was a moment of like when you got to the other side, you're like celebrating, but the person in the middle is like grieving? They're like, oh my God, I'm a failure. I just let everything slip through. Okay. So that is what is happening in the thalamus, in the brain, is it is trying to filter through all of this information, but it can only hold on to what's the most important, and everything else just goes to the graveyard, you know, all the people on the other side. But the thalamus, and it's still letting the information go through to the nervous system that like, well, all this other stuff is happening. So we're still going to respond, even though it's not at the forefront of your consciousness. Okay. So hopefully that analogy made sense. Another simple one is, think of it like a cup of water. Okay. Every little stressor that you're doing throughout the day, again, molecular, biochemical, or mental, or physical, whatever the stress is, it's going to fill the cup up. And eventually that cup is going to spill over. And your nervous system is doing the exact same thing. So when that cup spills over, that's the same thing as your nervous system responding with symptoms. Okay. It's just trying to talk to you. So we are now going to talk about nervous system communication, because I think that that is really important, because like I said, we don't have the right language to speak with it. And that's why a lot of us have a difficult time interfacing with it, because we're like, well, if you don't respond to English, then what the fuck are you going to respond to? And we get lost and we get frustrated there, right? So what we need to know about the nervous system is that the communication that's happening is subconscious, and it's not keeping any secrets. And you guys don't like that. But your brain is always going to know what your body is feeling, and the body is always going to know what the brain is thinking underneath all of it. So you guys can pretend that you're playing this little game with yourself and keeping secrets, but your body and your brain are on the same page. Okay? You can't keep those secrets from yourself. And that's where I see most people getting tripped up when they're working on their mental health. The neurotransmitters and the hormones that are being released as the language, that's the communication language from the body to the brain through the nervous system, they can only release based on what's true. Okay? I just gave you the eyes. Not what you want to be true. Okay? So you know how like someone can say to you, hey, are you stressed? And you're like, no, I'm good. Just because you said, no, I'm good, doesn't mean that the body is not releasing cortisol and is not sending out the adrenaline floodgate through the system. Okay? And now you have the chatter of your mind and your body on two very different pages. And we are going to talk about what that does to the nervous system. Okay? Like I said to you before, super irritating. The nervous system doesn't respond to English. Okay? And that is why we can't talk our way out of symptoms. You've tried to do that before, right? Just nod your head, even though I can't see you. You've tried to talk your way out of your symptoms. I'm fine. Everything's going to be fine. I got this. You're not actually feeling that. That's all in your head. Everything's good. We can keep going on. Yeah, like I know what your internal dialogue is. Yeah. that is a disaster for the high achiever, especially the ones who are perfectionist control freaks. And I know who you are, okay? Because we think that that thinking part of the brain can make sense of what's going on because we have a frontal cortex as human beings. We're like, well, if I can think and I'm a sentient being and I can create my reality, then I should be able to do that right now. But somehow that doesn't work in the human body, right? The body still has symptoms. The body is still releasing these hormones. It's still releasing these neurotransmitters. And what happens is we end up feeling betrayed. Okay. Has anyone ever felt that they're like betrayed of their body? Yeah. And we get this feeling of like, whoa, the body is keeping the score on me. And we get more anxious and depressed because we can't regain that control by force with our minds. Okay. But we can regain control of our bodies by working with the nervous system. Instead of doing this shit where you are body and mind fighting against each other, because inside, when those two things are out of alignment, it creates so much more symptom presentation than you even know. Okay. And that is why, yes, Tanya, it does sound really scary. That's why at the end of the day that I am going to, again, scream from the rooftops, get into alignment, be honest with yourself. Because if you are having this battle internally between your body and your mind, and your body's being like, you know, I'm trying to explain this to you and I'm trying to show it to you through my symptoms, and your mind's being like, shut the fuck up, I don't want you to feel this. That is an internal war that is only going to release more cortisol. That is only going to dysregulate the nervous system more. And it creates a shit show in the human body. Okay? So here are the things that I want you to accept at this point. 1, we tend to have symptoms because our bodies and brains are not on the same page, which again, I told you is going to naturally just stress out your nervous system, and it's going to cause a lot of confusion because your brain's going to be like, okay, body, which signal do you want me to send then? And your body's going to be like, this one, idiot. And then your brain's going to be like, okay, well, I don't really know if I want to release that one today. Can you imagine having that dialogue going on in your subconscious 24/7? And then you guys are like, why isn't this stuff working? How's it going to work? How is this going to ever get you closer to nervous system regulation if your brain and your body are directly fighting against each other every millisecond of every single day? Okay. And this is a lot easier said than done, but I'm just letting you know that this is creating a lot more havoc on the chronic stress level that's happening inside our nervous system. And it is filling up that cup way faster and spilling over way faster. And that's why you feel so out of control. Okay. Number 2, the thinking brain is trying to suppress the discomfort so often that the body has no choice but to yell louder because it's trying to say, hey, that's not what we're trying to say. I want to be heard. Okay. This is why people get symptoms for no reason. Or, oh, this is the best one, when people get panic attacks. And they're like, oh my God, it was out of nowhere. I don't understand what happened. It's just like my body took over. Your body is literally screaming as loud as it can to hijack your brain because it's like, this isn't working. Okay. So it's trying to shut it down. It's because you are ignoring the signals that are happening in your nervous system. Okay. So we need to start speaking the language of the nervous system, which goes a little bit deeper than what our brain wants. Because I know what we all want. It's a pretty picture. And that is why I see a lot of people struggle when they're just in talk therapy. And they're like, it's just not like getting me to where I want to be. I'm like, yeah, you're not doing any body work. The nervous system is not involved in this process. This is all about your brain trying to shut your body up even more and make sense of it even more and intellectualize your emotions even more. And they are going to continue being so out of alignment. And I did that and it sucked. So I don't want you guys to be making that mistake either. And then on the other side, this is also the reason why medication doesn't work all the time. So none of these things incorporate the body or truly understand the nervous system. And it's constantly an act of overriding what's going on underneath. Okay. And the way that I practice with my patients is the total opposite of that. Like, we're not overriding shit. We're getting in the ride and we're going on the ride. And instead of holding on like this, we're going to put up our arms and go, wee, I don't fucking like this, but wee. Okay. And that is where I want you guys, that's the pocket that I want you to sit in, is that if you approach this differently and speak the language of the nervous system, that is when things are going to start to change. Okay. Are we all on board so far? Sam, yes, I can attest to that. The putting your arms up and going, wee, I don't fucking like this ride. Yeah, there's no we in the ride at the beginning. It's more like an ah. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a quick, recap leveling. Because I think we all know what it's like when our nervous system is activated at the moment, right? We get like our heart rate changes, our breathing changes, sometimes our temperature changes. I usually get freezing cold when my nervous system is activated. We can notice ourselves dissociating and like going numb and glazing over. We can become emotionally activated and going into that like fight or flight, actual, fight or run away, flight type of emotional situation. We can get restless. We can shake. I know shaking's a big one for you guys. Some of us get brain fog, or we get unable to like catch our thoughts. It's like it's such a lack of focus, but you're okay with the lack of focus because you're like, this is better than feeling. And then I see a lot of people with digestive issues as well. So is there anything that you guys would want to add to that list of things that you get, or is it feeling like complete of noticing that your body is going for you in the moment? Yes, Stephen, great one. Vision and hearing. Yes, vision can get blurry. You can get dizzy. Hearing, a lot of people get ringing in their ears. Balance issues, head pressure. Yes, I definitely get that sometimes as well. And here is what I want you to pay attention to know when your nervous system is getting dysregulated over time. Because let's be honest, we're not all walking around with that every single day. So if you are getting symptoms randomly throughout the day with no trigger, that's usually when you are in a dysregulated nervous system state. If you are waking up to symptoms of anxiety, if you have poor digestion, so if you are constipated or you're having diarrhea, or if it's switching to both, or if your stomach hurts you all the time, that's something that can give you some information as to how your nervous system is doing. If you have poor sleep quality and you wake up a lot throughout the night, that usually signals a dysregulated nervous system. Usually difficulty falling asleep is more anxiety and rumination, but the waking up a lot and not being able to get into deep sleep is usually a dysregulated nervous system. If you're emotionally snapping at people, if you are fatigued and low energy to do basic tasks, like if you're someone who can do all the things, but then it comes to like brushing your teeth at night and you're like, I just don't feel like it, dysregulated nervous system. Okay. If you can, get your kids ready to go out somewhere, but then you get home and you see dishes in the sink and you're like, no, that's a dysregulated nervous system. Okay. If you have a little bandwidth for inconveniences, so like stuff that you can't control or just regular shit that happens in life, that's how you know your nervous system is there. If you're losing enjoyment in things that you used to like to do, okay, that's a big, big, big red flag, I would say, in lots of people. Isolating yourself from people or feeling the need to cling to people. Those are both things on the opposite side of the spectrum. Okay. Lack of focus and motivation, obviously. Trying to gain control in random areas of your life. Okay. Do any of you guys do that? Where everything's like spiraling in one place with your mental health and you like just don't know how to tackle it. So you're like, I'm going to do a project. I'm going to go dive headfirst into this thing. I'm going to distract myself with that thing. And then suddenly you're just like busy again. Yeah, that's you having a dysregulated nervous system. And then needing to be on the go, which we talked about at the beginning, because you're afraid of your symptoms. And the moment that you're alone, you feel uncomfortable inside your own skin. Okay. So those are all really obvious signs that, as who just wrote it in there, Rhiannon, you put it eloquently, my nervous system needs some love. Yeah. Okay. So if you're in this space, that is these are the blinkers are on, like, get it done. Stop waiting. What are you waiting for? Total burnout? Gosh, no. We will cover that in a little bit. But we want to take care of our nervous systems in the now. Why would we allow that shit to happen? That sounds like a bad life. that entire list. Why would we want that for ourselves, right? And sometimes the work feels daunting, but let me tell you, the list of things that I'm going to tell you to do, it's a lot easier than feeling like this pile of shit that I just mentioned. Okay. I wish we had like on the screen, the big list of all the things that I just said. So let's go over some tools of how to regulate your nervous system on the spot, because I feel like everyone's always searching for those things. And I want you guys to have a quick little list. So if you have your notepad out or you have your pen and paper, this is your opportunity to write these things down. Okay. If you are feeling activated, so you start to get any of those symptoms that we talked about before, this is your moment to put in the work in real time and do breath work, move your body. I don't care what that looks like. If you want to go to a workout, fine. If that means crawling on the ground and moaning and groaning, great. If that means dancing to your favorite song, great. I don't give a shit what it is. Move your body, because you need to move that shit out of you. Okay. Getting outside, super important. If you are ever feeling overwhelmed, go outside and take a deep fucking breath. Okay. There's a reason why I suggest it. It works. And we're going to talk about the different areas of the brain that it's activating, but I want you to do that. Okay. Shift your space to shift your mood. I like to use temperatures to readjust. If my nervous system is going haywire and I get freezing cold, I will go straight into the bath so that I can get warm as fast as possible. Or I will start moving and shaking in order to build active energy in my body. Would I rather sit in a bath? Yes, it's more relaxing. It's also faster, right? So you've got to find the tools that work for you in the moment when you are activated, so that you can remind yourself that your nervous system is safe, that it can recalibrate, that it can come back, and that it doesn't have to get stuck where it is. Okay. But all of these things that I'm saying here, this is not where the magic happens. I find this to be like your coping mechanisms of like, okay, in an emergency, this is how I'm going to navigate it. But what I see is that some people only do this. Some people are only doing this on the spot stuff. And in my opinion, that's what it looks like to Band-Aid. So you're not doing consistent daily nervous system work to get to the spot where your body's not having those symptoms as much as it is. Okay. So that type of work is a lot more powerful than being in the moment and doing this stuff. Okay. So if this is what you think you're doing as nervous system work and you're only doing it when you're activated, when my heart races, this is what I do. When my body gets warm or cold, this is what I do. If that is what you are doing and you're calling that nervous system work, that is not nervous system work. Those are coping mechanisms. Okay. So we need to get very clear on the difference between those two things. So now we're going to talk about how to regulate your nervous system consistently over time. So if you have your pen or your notepad out or whatever, now this is what I want you to write down. Okay. Because I'm going to tell you exactly what's in Peace of Mind method and how I work with my patients. Okay. I am not going to gatekeep this. I'm going to tell you what we do. So the first thing that we practice is mindfulness. We practice self-awareness and creating space within ourselves. And that's going to allow you to get more in touch with your nervous system. And you will be able to start to speak its language better. Because right now you are not even taking the time to listen. So first we have to listen before we communicate with, right? That's what anyone would tell you about a healthy relationship, wouldn't they? So that's what we have to make sure is going down first. Now, I've worked with many people who think that they're practicing mindfulness, when in fact, this is a big call out. Don't get upset, okay? I find that people are just labeling shit, okay? I am in a chair. My feet are on the ground. I'm feeling stressed. This is what I see. Like, people are just labeling shit instead of being like, okay, when I was in that interaction, this is how I was experiencing my emotions in real time. And this is what I noticed about myself. And this is the way that my body was interacting with the thing that I felt was triggering me. It is a totally different ballgame. Okay. So if you are labeling stuff and calling that mindfulness, you and I need to have a chat. And I am more than happy to talk about it, because there have even been times with people in my program where we're practicing mindfulness and they're not going as deep as they need to because they're getting stuck in the superficial. instead of learning how they are supposed to be a third-party observer in their mind. Okay? So we have to make sure we are going that deep so that we build a skill set around non-judgmental self-awareness. Okay? The next thing that you are going to need to do to regulate your nervous system is meditation, which you are going to learn tomorrow if you are coming to my live at 8:30 p.m. EST. Now, if you want to learn more about how I practice meditation and why I think people are missing the lessons that you're supposed to learn, then I want you to watch my live replay on meditation. And if you don't have that link or don't know where to find it, DM me right now. Message me on Instagram. I will leave my Instagram right here. Hold on. Okay. You can message me on Facebook and just write meditation replay, because I want you to learn the lessons that I need you to learn if you're going to say you're practicing this tool. Okay? Yes. Okay. So I'm huge on silent meditation. I think you know that if you've heard me talk before, because it teaches us what we need to learn about ourselves, not to be distracted by what a guided meditation wants from us. Okay? And there's a difference between those two things. In my opinion, which isn't gospel, but it's just my opinion, I don't think that guided meditations give us the space to see ourselves. And it's another opportunity to escape our discomfort, and that is not what this mental health journey is about. There are these big aha moments that can only be achieved when you dive into meditation properly. And I really do believe that these are pivotal moments on a self-growth journey. So I give people in Peace of Mind Method the option for different tiers on how many times a week they want to practice, but it is consistent and it's planned, and we increase the length as the program goes on. You cannot tell me that you are becoming intimate with your nervous system and anxiety and depression at 5 minutes of a daily guided meditation. It's not possible. So if you want to prove me wrong, or you want to prove me right, then I want you to try doing 15 minutes every day for 1 week, and then 20 minutes a day for the next week, and you will see what I'm talking about. And if you want that head start, again, DM me or message me on Facebook and say meditation replay, and I will give it to you so that you can start learning about how I want you to do it. Plus, we're going to learn tomorrow in the live, okay? The next thing to regulate your nervous system, daily breath work, multiple times a day if you can. Breath work is one of those things that has to be utilized in the moment when symptoms arise, and also at random moments to make sure that the nervous system is getting the right signals at different touch points throughout the day. I talk about this in great detail in my breath work live. So if you want to learn more about that, I'm going to send you there because I do not have so much time with you guys and I still have so much to cover. Okay. So if you want the breath work live, shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook and say breath work replay. Okay. The next thing that we need to know, that we need to do to regulate our nervous systems, is getting regular quality sleep. So our brain requires this in order to function. If you've heard me talk about the default mode network in the brain before, this is one of the biggest impacts on sleep. And when we don't get good sleep, our default mode network does not reset, and it creates a lot of mental chatter. And the thalamus, which I introduced you to earlier, cannot filter through information. And that leads to ruminating and cycling thoughts and intrusive thoughts. And it feels like you can't turn your brain off and you want to take it out and put it on ice. Okay? So good sleep is a cornerstone of nervous system regulation. You cannot out-meditate or out-breathe bad sleep. Your emotional regulation and your focus relies on it too. Okay. So I treat a lot of sleep issues in my practice. Sometimes I wonder if it's a chicken or an egg thing. Like, is it the anxiety and depression that's causing bad sleep, or is it the bad sleep causing worse symptoms? But rest assured that if we are talking about a baby acting all weird, the first thing that we'd say is, maybe they're tired or not sleeping well. And let me tell you, the same rules apply to you as a human being right now. Okay. The next thing that we have to make sure that we have for our nervous system to be regulated properly is making sure you're eating right for your brain and your body. And if you're not getting the right nutrients for your nervous system, it's not going to be able to function properly. And the correct signals cannot be sent. And this one goes down to the details of like biochemical pathways in science, which I can't even begin to explain to you in this live. It's so complicated. But what I can say is that I'm very particular about how I expect my patients to eat in Peace of Mind method when it comes to getting nutrients from different food groups. I split things into carbohydrates, fat, protein, and color. So what I'm not particular about is health and wellness trends. You will not catch me doing those. Like if I'm eating a meal and I need to add carbs, I have no problem with those carbs being a cookie. And it's the quality of the meal that matters from a nutrient density perspective, not how healthy each food is. The nervous system does not discriminate where you get your nutrients from. It just needs them to run its biochemical pathways. Okay. The next thing is you have to make sure that your movement and your exercise routine matches the state and the stress of your nervous system. I'm going to pause here because I told you that I was going to talk about burnout. So we're going to talk really quick about the stages of adaptation and what happens in the human body. Okay. Because this topic, it creates a lot of confusion and resistance in people. I hear people say, I think working out is good for your mental health, and that is why I do it. And I am always like, well, it depends. It depends. People fucking hate that answer. It depends. I remember being in medical school and the people training me were like, just be careful. When you say it depends, your patients are going to turn red in the face and get very angry with you. And I see it happening in real time all the time. Okay. So just really quick, we are going to talk about the 3 stages of adaptation in our nervous system. And it goes from alarm to resistance to burnout. Your exercise routine has to match this if you are trying to regulate your nervous system. Burnout is that feeling of being fatigued and exhausted, especially after working out, let alone, I don't even know if you can think about doing a workout at that point. And if that's where you are, then you should only be doing light movement, like walking, stretching, some Pilates, some yoga. Okay. If you're in resistance, and I'm winking at all of you, which is where we're in autopilot and continuing with our day-to-day with symptoms, and we think that we're dealing with them. Okay. This requires a fine-tuned balancing act where you can still work out, but not too much. And I've learned that my personal cap is around 2 to 3 times a week of that intense training. And that's about it for me. And if I go above that, I start to feel it in my nervous system. Okay. Now in the alarm phase, that's where you're a regular human. You're having regular stress. Your nervous system is responding. It then recovers. Everything is good. You can do whatever you want as long as you're recovering from the movement well. Okay. So most of you in here, you're in burnout or you're in resistance. And I was there too. But you can bring your body back into a regulated nervous system state of alarm and then do all of the proper work to get your nervous system back to where you want it to be. Okay. You should not be working out so hard in the resistance phase, which most people miss. Like most of you right now are like, am I even in resistance phase? Like, yes, you probably are. And what it's doing is it's adding an additional stressor to the nervous system, and people they just miss it. And they don't realize that even though they're doing something good, that it can still be contributing to the dysregulation of their nervous system. And this is why I'm sharing the small details with you, because I don't want you to miss this. It's such an issue that I see people glaze by, and they don't realize that's something that they're doing for themselves. And they're like, well, I'm doing this because it's making my mental health better. It's like, or it's not, and you don't know the science. That was supposed to be a little jingle that just turned into sadness very quickly. Okay. The last thing on this list is spending time in nature. So unbelievably easy. So impactful for the nervous system. It regulates our cortisol levels for free. And it's quite scientifically magical how well it works. So I prefer for my patients to get outside daily and interact with nature. And in Peace of Mind method, we have an entire module that is based on nature immersion. So if that is a walk, great. Maybe that means that you're just getting outside. Great. Make it a priority in your day-to-day routine. You have to remember that biologically, we are creatures of the outdoors, and our nervous system craves it in order to recalibrate. Okay. So I need a drink before we go to the next topic. Hold on a second. I can feel my saliva reducing, not because my nervous system's activated. What? Of course it is. I'm alive with you guys. What do you think? I'm superhuman? Okay. Let's talk about the ways that our brain changes and corresponds to symptoms over time. Okay, let's also talk about the ways that these tools impact our brain. Okay, I think that's what I meant to say. If I said it twice, great. That means it's in your brain twice. Fantastic. Let's go there. Okay, so meditation and breath work first. They're going to reduce the activation of the limbic system and your brain stem, which you don't know what those are, but what it is they're responsible for the fight or flight response. So we want those to reduce, right? So that means that if you practice these things consistently, the messaging from your brain down to your body is going to be more regulated over time. So if your brain doesn't cascade incorrectly, that means that your body is not going to be experiencing those symptoms for no reason. Okay. There still will be times where we want this survival mechanism to happen, where we want the stress, but you're going to be less likely to be triggered by random stimuli. Okay. I use meditation and breathing as training tools, not as patch jobs. Yes, we can meditate and do breath work in times of stress, like I said, but the way that I prescribe it to my patients is outside of the moments of activation so that we're training the brain and the nervous system. You have to think of it like training a dog, okay? You don't just reward or punish your dog when things happen. You devote time to training them so that they know what to expect. They know what behaviors that you want from them. The same thing has to be done with the nervous system because it's primitive. You need to think of this part of your brain like an animal. Like we actually share this with our dogs, with our cats. Like this is the same part of the brain we're talking about. It's the most animalistic thing we have inside of our body, okay? Next, with mindfulness, it's going to increase your frontal cortex, which is how human beings organize and think. This is not something that we share with animals. This is something that's very unique to us. And this one's like taking your brain to the gym. So the more you practice thinking, the better you get at processing. And it really is that simple. The quality sleep that I mentioned earlier, that's going to impact your thalamus and your default mode network, like I told you. And that's going to reduce your overall stress and the filtering of what the nervous system reacts to. Okay. Have you guys ever like had a bad week of sleep and then you're just more on edge? Like that is your default mode network and your thalamus failing you on the spot. But the same thing happens with our nervous system. Like it's not able to control its reaction to all this little shit that seems inconsequential. Next, movement is going to impact your cortisol regulation and your animal brain. And I feel like this one is self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go there. And then nature is going to hit all of the above. Okay. So now that I've bombarded you with a lot of science, I think I'm going to bring things full circle about why the nervous system regulation is so important. You can do all of the mental work in the world, but if your nervous system is not on the same page, you are still going to be plagued with your symptoms and you're going to be left feeling like you're hopeless and unfixable. And I cannot stress enough how untrue this is. Instead, I want you to self-reflect and look at the order at which you're doing things. A lot of us have done that mental work, but have left the body and the nervous system behind. Let alone before this live, you may not even have understood how the nervous system works. So how could you have done it differently, right? So if you're not working on your nervous system and you're not doing the body work, why would you just expect everything to get better by thinking differently? I hope that's a lot clearer now. That your body and your brain, they have to be on the same page for anxiety and depression symptoms to improve and change long term. This fact alone is why I work with my patients in the order that I do. I make sure that we work on the nervous system first in Peace of Mind method, and then I get my patients to dive into the higher level thinking and the work that changes how we process life and emotions and stress. That's what changes our relationship with our mental health, and it gives us a true understanding of what's going on behind the curtain of what we can't see. Okay, so at the beginning, I asked you to fill out that poll of which statement resonated with you the most. And if you're listening to a playback and they were the following, I will read them out loud. Maybe you guys even from the beginning forget. 1, my symptoms come out of nowhere and I don't know why. 2, I don't have specific triggers, so I don't get how that's helpful to figure things out here. 3, my symptoms are still showing up even after meds and therapy. What the fuck? And 4, I've been working on things. It gets better for a bit, and then stuff comes back. Why? Okay. So let's answer these questions together, and you can do it in your head and I'll do it out loud. Okay. So my symptoms came out of nowhere and I don't know why. The answer, because my nervous system is trying to communicate with me. 2, I don't have specific triggers. The answer, you don't have specific triggers because you either don't have the self-awareness to see what's triggering you, or your nervous system has been trained to fire for minor threats. Or in other words, it's dysregulated. 3, my symptoms are still showing up even after meds and therapy. What the fuck? Answer, that's because you haven't done the nervous system work to impact your symptom presentation. This is not something that can be controlled by the thinking brain. And 4, I've been working on things. It gets better for a bit and then it comes back. Why? That's because you're not staying consistent with your plan or extracting the right lessons from the things that you are trying to learn from. Okay? So by this point, my hope is that those answers were very clear to you. I'm now going to open the floor for any Q&A that you have about the nervous system and how it relates to your anxiety and depression. And while I wait for your questions, I will give you a quick reminder about the events for the rest of the week. Attending tonight's live gave you 5 bonus entries to win Peace of Mind Method Nervous System Edition. So good luck to everyone here. And I can't wait to bring you the rest of the lives on meditation, breathwork, and yoga, which, as you've learned tonight, are going to be tools that I want you to implement in your nervous system regulation protocol. Okay? So if you guys have specific questions that you want to ask me, I am going to suggest that you put them into the chat box, or you can put them in the Q&A box, and I will open everything up, read, and respond. And if you don't have any questions and you need to jet, please feel free to go. If you want to stick around and hang out with me, please feel free to do that too. Jessica's asking, how much sleep do I recommend? That is so personal for each person. You're going to hear people be like, it needs to be 8 hours. I only agree that it needs to be around there if that's where you feel charged and like ready to go and have energy for the next day. It's more about the quality versus the quantity. And you will know if you have quality sleep if you have energy throughout the day. Sometimes energy is a tricky thing because it could be related to a few other, let's say, side symptoms or root causes. So I don't want to completely judge sleep on that. But if you're getting in and around 7 to 8 hours of sleep, you should be good. If you are sleeping that much and not feeling regenerated, then there is stuff that we can also look at together. Okay? Why is it so hard to think of the brain changing in a positive way? I just get depressed when I hear that your brain changes as I go straight to the negative. I used to think like that too, and that is called negative lens bias. When you are in a depressed state or you're overwhelmed, it's a lot easier for your brain to focus or to see the negative outcome, right? You're hearing, holy shit, I've caused all these brain changes and everything is bad and things have grown and things have shrunk and now it's going to be harder to overcome my nervous system. Like, sure, you could look at it that way if you wanted to, but I mean, isn't it a lot more helpful for yourself to just say, okay, well, if I can change things in the negative, that means I can change things in the positive. And if it didn't take me that long to get to the negative, then it shouldn't take me that long to get to the positive. And we don't even have to consider getting to the positive side of this coin. We can just sit at homeostasis in the center, right? So I can understand why it feels overwhelming. But I think that puts us in this victim mindset of like, oh my God, I've fucked myself up and everything is bad and nothing's ever going to get better. And I'm always going to be fighting against that. No, you won't. I am actual living, walking proof, but you are not always going to be stuck that way. And I say that because I know how bad I once was. Okay, so let's not take that to the grave. I understand why it's hard to conceptualize. I think it's also, and I'm going to make a reference to space right now, it's hard to conceptualize what you're doing and how it's changing the brain without understanding the science of it. The same way that I can't conceptualize outer space because I don't understand the science of it. So I start thinking about it and it freaks me out and I'm like, blah, and then I get the heebie-jeebies. So I understand why you're feeling that way. And I also understand the shame of feeling responsible for that, but you are also responsible for the alternative too. Okay. Jacqueline, I don't feel like I get anything from meditation. My mind just thinks random thoughts and it's not insightful. What am I doing wrong? Well, Jacqueline, do me a favor, message me meditation replay so that I can get you on the same page as what I want you to be doing for your meditation. And then answering your personal questions there, because there is hours and hours and hours that we can talk about meditation, and me explaining how we're not getting to the right insights for particular reasons. And usually that revolves around not having good guidance. And I was there too, so I totally get that. But I think that this live will clear a lot of things up for you. And if you are not, at the end of the day, one of the winners of one of the prizes, and you don't end up winning the meditation protocol, the accelerated meditation mini course, then I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do it so that you can dive way deeper. I have never met a person who practiced meditation the way I want them to practice meditation. And that is saying a lot, especially because of the industry that I'm in. So I think meditation is lost on a lot of people. I think the lessons that are supposed to be learned, they're just, I want you to watch the live first, okay? I just think that people aren't getting down to the meat and potatoes of what it is. Okay, let me see what is going on in this chat. Okay, the relationship with tinnitus. I've had this for as long as I can recall. Okay, so two things. We have to rule out first that tinnitus isn't due to fluid in the ears. And that's something I'm big on with my patients, is we can't blame things on anxiety that can be blamed for physical experiences first. So I like to rule those things out. Sometimes I like to do treatment depending on what I think it could be that's causing that kind of stuff. But tinnitus is one of those tricky, unknown, misunderstood anxiety and nervous system symptoms that I think people are always going to fixate on because it's literally in the middle of your head. Is that fair to say? So that, like, if you're hearing the tinnitus all the time, that you will be saying, oh my God, it's here. How do I get rid of it? Now I'm having this. It's like we have this difficulty just being able to sit with it because it makes us so uncomfortable. But I would argue that tinnitus is the same thing as any other mental health symptom. And if you can learn how to sit with it, it loses its oomph a lot faster. I do get tinnitus in my ears. Is it related to being activated? I don't know. Sometimes it just happens to me randomly. That's also possible, that you just have a random case of tinnitus that has nothing to do with anxiety whatsoever. But I think if I sat and focused on my ears right now, and I sat here with you guys and did an entire body scan, that I'd be able to outline all of the physical sensations I'm experiencing in the present moment. But because I've practiced mindfulness and meditation, I'm able to observe it with non-judgment and not go down the spiral hole of, holy shit, I'm having this physical experience. It's, I'm having this physical experience. What's your point? Okay. So there's just a fine line to balance between those two is, yes, we want to work on the symptom. Yes, we want to get to the root cause of why it's happening, but also let's learn how to not be afraid of the thing and be able to sit with it to give it space so that it doesn't hold as much power. And that is a concept that is so much easier said than done. But once you start doing it, it starts to become very clear how powerful that is. Okay. Okay. Menstrual cycle and the nervous system. Holy shit, I could do an entire live on this, and I was supposed to do it this December, but it's getting pushed a month. Can I save this one, Amy? Can I save the hormones and the menstrual cycle and all of that? Because it is unbelievably unbelievably related to the nervous system. So female hormones, being in your luteal phase, PMS, PMDD. I work with lots of patients where I have treated PMS and PMDD, and it is very, very, very treatable. So if this is something that you are working through, please message me. You do not have to suffer with this. I had this as well. I suffered with it. I no longer suffer with it. I will not give you TMI on this call, but I might give a TMI on my live that I'm going to be doing specifically on PMS and PMDD with another naturopathic doctor. Okay. So stick around for that one. They are totally related. Okay. Let me hit the next question here. And yes, it's going to be in January. Probably, if I can get on the schedule with the person at the right times that I need for all of you guys. Okay. Yes, you guys will all get that invite if you stick around in my Facebook community for that live as well. Stephen, can you write a little bit more about what you're asking with the strained vision? Are you asking me how to calm it? I would say, let's listen to this whole live again. I'm going to post the recording. You can listen to it again later. These are all the different ways that we are going to impact our eyes, our ears, our symptoms, our heart, our lungs, our gut. Everything is going to be regulatable when we start working at the level of the nervous system, because that is the elusive thing that's creating all of these symptoms. And, you know, I think that it's mind-boggling for people to be like, wow, this one system can cause all of these random symptoms throughout the body. Like, do I need to bring up that picture again? Our nerves are connected from our brain down our spinal cord and connect to every single part of the human body. The nervous system isn't going in and selecting, hey, let's just hit this. Let's just make this person struggle with this one thing. No, it's going in there and being like, where can I activate the body? Because this is clearly an emergency, right? That's what it's trying to do. And it's not specific. And that's why we get all these random things that are all still controllable with the same treatment protocol, with the same root cause. And that is what makes mental health scary and overwhelming, but also so unbelievably amazing. And it keeps me so curious at all the things that we can do that we don't think are related to our symptoms, that when we change one thing over here, it has an impact over there. And that makes the human body so fascinating. Okay. So it looks like our questions have slowed down. I hope that you guys enjoyed the live tonight. It was lots of fun hanging out with you. I hope you learned, a lot of information. Sorry, I was just seeing some questions pop in somewhere else. We're good. We're good. All of our questions have been answered tonight. Yes. I want to wish everyone luck who got entered into the holiday giveaway challenge. Jessica, don't worry. There's going to be a whole rest of, the week of lives. We're going to have meditation tomorrow. We are going to have breath work on Wednesday, and we are going to have yoga on Thursday. And it is going to be an amazing time. We are going to now take all of this information that we learned, and we are going to dive in and actually do the things, which is the hardest part. All right. So I will see you guys tomorrow. And this has been a blast. I'll see you soon.